Hey guys, welcome back to my small engine repair channel. Today I want to talk about a question that I often get on YouTube, in the shop here as well. That question is, can I safely use a nylon rope to lock up the engine on my chainsaw to remove the clutch or the flywheel nut? Well, the answer to that, guys, is yes, you can safely use a nylon rope to do that, but make sure to watch the video here because I'm going to show you what to avoid so that you don't get that rope caught up in the cylinder and then have to take your entire chainsaw apart. Now, in some of my previous videos, I have used nylon ropes to lock up chainsaws to remove the clutches, and I've always explained how to do this with the chainsaw intact like that. What I've done here is cut out a cylinder in half just so I can show you exactly how you want to do it, just so that you have in your mind when you put the rope in what is actually going on inside. So most of the comments that I get from people is that they tried to lock up the engine on their chainsaw, but what happened is the rope got stuck in the cylinder and they could not get that rope out. So that's a major problem if that happens. And this is why I'm making the video today, and why I did this cutout here, is so that you don't make that mistake. Now, depending on the size of chainsaw you have that you want to remove the clutch, you will need different sizes of rope. So this is the most common one that I use here. I believe this is a 1/4 inch or 5/16. It's more like 5/16. Now, if you want to take apart a bigger chainsaw, you might want to get a bigger rope like this. Now, the most important thing you should do when you get a new rope is make sure that you mold the end of the rope here so that it's not all frayed like this. This is how you want the rope to be. So the way I do that is I use a propane torch. I just kind of heat up the ends here. Make sure you're wearing gloves. And then you just kind of mold it together like this. The reason you want to do that is so that little pieces of the rope don't end up staying inside your engine. So let's go to the cutout here. Now, this is a 2-cycle engine on a chainsaw, and you can see the exhaust port over here. This is the intake port. And on some saws, you will have a port on the side of the cylinder right here. And those are the areas here, the exhaust port and the port on the side of the cylinder, that you do not want the rope to get caught in there. So what often happens is people put a rope in without knowing where the piston is, and the rope might actually get right in the exhaust port. So when you go to take off your clutch, what's happening is you're actually squeezing the rope between the piston and the cylinder, and there's a high probability that you can cause damage to your parts in your cylinder or get the rope snapped in there and stuck inside. So this is how you do not want it to be. And if it gets caught on the inside port over here, it can kind of shear the rope and have pieces of rope go right inside the crankcase. Now, it's highly unlikely that the rope would get stuck in the intake port because the piston doesn't really go down below that. So here's when your engine's working, this is what's happening here. Piston's going up and down like this at a high speed. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to properly do this without getting the rope stuck in the ports. So what you can do is take the spark plug off your chainsaw or weed whacker, whatever you're working on. You could actually use a small screwdriver like this just to feel the piston. And as you move the flywheel or the clutch, the piston will go up and down. And what I do is, once I know the piston's at the top like this, I just go back, but just a bit, so that the piston is not below the exhaust port or the port on the side of the cylinder. So what I would do is just insert a lot of rope, as much as I can. And if this is done properly, guys, it's 100% safe. You're not going to break your chainsaw. So now clutches, as you know, have reverse threads. So in this case, I lowered the piston by turning left because I knew when I tighten, it's going to want to go up. So here's how the rope will work. It's going to lock the piston, and it's also flexible, so it's not a hard object or metal object that could actually crack your piston. There's a bit of give to it. And then you can grab your ratchet in a socket, put it on the clutch nut, and then just force it, and the clutch will come off without damaging anything. So it's one thing to show to you on the cutout here how to do it, but I'm actually going to do it on an actual chainsaw that is not cut up like that one, just to show you a real life example. So I've got an MS 180C here. I will take the cover off. The spark plug is off. And again, guys, if you go to do this on your chainsaw and you're not sure where the piston is, you can always take the muffler off. And I'll do that right now. I've already got the nuts loose here. So if you don't feel confident that you've got the piston above the exhaust port, take the muffler off because you can see the piston inside. There it is, it's all scored up, but I'm going to use it to show you how to do this. Take your clutch cover off, so I'm going to take the clutch off. Some days you might have to take the flywheel off on the other side. Now on these Stihl chainsaws, you just pop this E-clip. Make sure your brake is off for the clutch drum to come off. So let's say you don't have the muffler off and you're not sure where the piston is. Do like I showed you earlier, grab a small screwdriver, stick it in through the spark plug hole, just keep it straight like this. Don't put the screwdriver like this because you might get it in the exhaust port. Keep it like that, turn the clutch, find out where the piston is right at the top. It is now, so I'm going to back up because I'll be turning that way to unscrew the clutch. So now I've got a bit of space inside the cylinder. This is about where I'm at now on the MS 180C that I'm removing the clutch. So there will be lots of room like this to insert my rope. And sometimes when you put the rope in, you want to twist it as you're pushing it in. It just makes it easier to get it in there. So I think I've got quite a bit of rope in there. And if you don't have enough rope in there, let's say like this, what's going to happen is when you go to remove it, it might just go back down because there wasn't enough rope to actually block the piston. And now what I'm going to do is put my 19mm socket on the clutch nut. I'm going to turn it, make sure that the piston is actually locking really well. Now we're getting really tight here. Now hold this really well. You might want to put something here to grab your hand, or put a glove because it might just let go all of a sudden and you might bang your hand, or do it over the edge of the table. Maybe that's what I'll do now. And now that I've got a good lock, I can really force it, and let's see if she comes loose. There we go. So now the clutch has come loose. I can remove the clutch, and now I can pull the rope right out of the cylinder. And the rope did not get caught inside the cylinder, and I did not cause any damage to the chainsaw. And remember that you can use this same procedure to remove the flywheel nut as well. And now what I'm going to do is retighten the clutch up, and I will show you how I will do this again with the rope inside the cylinder. Now before reinstalling the clutch or putting the rope in the cylinder, what you want to do is grab the crankshaft on your chainsaw and turn it to the left counterclockwise. And you want to make sure that it turns freely. And the reason I'm saying to do that is because some chainsaws, when you turn the crankshaft counterclockwise, what can happen is the flywheel will get caught in the starter pause and it puts all the pressure on the starter. So you don't want all the pressure on the starter, you want it on the nylon rope inside the cylinder. Just like on this Echo chainsaw here, guys, if I turn the clutch counterclockwise, it puts pressure on the recoil. See, you can see the recoil here will move, watch this. The cord's a bit limp, but as I turn the clutch, the recoil will go back in. See that? So this chainsaw here, if I were to tighten up the clutch, all the pressure would be on the recoil, and you can end up breaking your recoil if you do it that way. So it's very critical if you have a saw like this to lock up the piston in the cylinder to put the pressure on there instead of the recoil. But even though this Stihl chainsaw does not have this problem, I will show you again how to do it in case you have a chainsaw like the Echo one there. So what I do on chainsaws like that is I just pull the cord out and then I tie it around the handles just to give me some play here, some distance in the starter rope. So basically the reason I have the rope out is so that when I'm tightening up the clutch, the rope will slowly go back down as I'm tightening it instead of putting pressure on the parts of the recoil. So always remember that, tie the rope up a bit, then as you're tightening, let the rope go down accordingly. Don't let it all go back in because then it's going to put the pressure on the recoil. Let it gradually turn and go back in slowly as you're tightening up the clutch. So again here, by looking either through the exhaust port or using the screwdriver like this, you can see where your piston's at. So here I will back up just a little bit, maybe a quarter of a turn. It's going to give me enough room inside there to put the rope. And again, you want to put in as much rope as you can. It just makes for a better lock. And if you find you can't get enough rope in, you might need to use a smaller rope. So you can just go to the Home Depot or hardware store and buy different lengths or sizes of this cord or rope and just keep them handy for instances like this. Now I've got the piston locked up with the rope. I will put my clutch back on, start it by hand. And I'll grab my ratchet and just lightly tighten up the clutch, guys. You don't need to go crazy here because it will tighten up itself when you put the bar and chain and cut wood with it. That's all you need. Now you can pull the rope right out. It did not get stuck in the cylinder and everything is installed correctly. Now, one very important tip I want to tell you guys here is if you just did this, you reinstalled the clutch, don't start up the chainsaw without the bar and chain because the clutch may come flying out and fly across your shop. Always test it out with the bar and chain and everything installed correctly. So that's pretty well all you have to do to correctly remove your clutch or flywheel and reinstall it using the nylon rope. Again, make sure that the piston is in the correct position and that it's covering all the ports so that the rope cannot get caught between the piston and the ports. Now you guys might say, this is all great, Don, I saw how you did it, but what if I get the rope stuck between the piston and the exhaust port or the side ports and the rope is broken inside the cylinder? What should I do? Well, the first thing I would do is take off the muffler to see if I could extract the rope through the exhaust port. If you can get it out through the exhaust port with the muffler off, that's awesome, guys. Then make sure that you don't have any frayed cord left in there. But if you've really got it in there badly, you might have to actually remove the cylinder and get all the remnants of the cord that are left inside. Don't try to pull it over to burn it off or do whatever. Don't force anything. Just take it apart, unfortunately, and retrieve everything so you don't cause more damage. So what I'm going to do here before I end off the video is I just want to show you again how I did it. What you want to do is line up your piston above the exhaust port or any ports inside. If there is a side port here, it will usually line up with the exhaust port. Make sure you're above that. Bring your piston right up. And again, you can use a screwdriver to determine where your piston's at the top. Then just come down like maybe a quarter of a turn or less, just enough so that you can get this rope in there. Once you have enough rope in there, and again guys, you might want to try and get like this amount of rope in there if you can. The more the merrier, because then you're certain that it will lock. If you don't have enough rope in there, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to go to remove the clutch and it's just basically going to do another revolution, kind of like this. See, there's not enough rope, so it's not even locking. And if you feel that you did not put enough rope and you can feel it trying to do an actual turn, just back off and start over. You don't want to force it if you feel that it's not locking properly. So just another thing here, guys, before I end off the video, some people may ask, am I better off to use a piston stop instead of the nylon rope? Well, my answer to that is yes. If you have the proper piston stop for your piece of equipment, always use that first before the rope. So personally, if I don't have to use a rope, that's what I prefer. If I have the proper piston stop, I will use it. I'll just show you quickly here with the cutout how to use a piston stop. So here's a few piston stops that I have here. Some are plastic, some are metal. I really don't like using the metal ones, guys, because I've seen people cause damage to their piston with these. I prefer using the plastic ones here. But if you have the proper one for your saw, even though it's metal, this is how these work. You screw it into your spark plug hole, and then when you go to remove the clutch, it locks itself against the piston stop here. And you can get these in different lengths. Now, if you have a plastic one like this is how they work. You insert it through the spark plug hole. But again, you'd want to make sure that the piston's down before you put it in. It'll go right through the hole. This hole's a bit damaged, that's why it's hard for me to get it through here. And then it would sit like this. And then when you go to unscrew the clutch, it'll just lock itself inside the cylinder like that, which is great. And let's try it in the MS-180 here. Just put it in like that. And now it's locking it up. So these are cheap to buy. Just go to your dealer and pick up a few. Just say for which saw you want them for, because they will come in different sizes. What I'll do is I'll put some part numbers under the video for this piston stop and some other ones that I have. But again, guys, I wanted you to see exactly what's going on when you put a rope inside the cylinder of your 2-cycle equipment. If you were doing this on a 4-cycle engine, what you would want to do is make sure both valves are closed when you insert the rope. Same principle, but different procedure than a 2-cycle engine like this. And I almost forgot, guys, a lot of people will use impacts to remove and tighten up clutches and flywheels and stuff like that. Just be careful if you do it that way. It's not recommended, because if you try to remove a clutch with an impact, you could break the key that is built into your flywheel on the other side of your engine. Just keep that in mind. You might be able to do it and get away with it, but at some point you might have to pay the price and replace a flywheel on the other side or cause damage to your clutch. So I hope this video has answered a lot of questions here, guys. And if anybody asks me about using a nylon rope, I will actually send them the link to this video here. If this video has helped you, please like it and share it with your friends, guys. And if you have any questions, please comment below the video. Thanks again for watching, guys. Have a great day.